Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans, a place where we are going to do our very best to try to save the world through simming. I've really been thinking about that tagline since our last flight. You guys let me know what you think about that. I don't know if you know it or not. Well, if you've been watching for a while you do, but we've got like 150 flights we've uploaded and I don't think I've ever said the same thing, maybe a couple of times, but I'm just trying to see what kind of sticks and what feels good coming out and what really reflects exactly what I'm trying to do with this channel. And I think that does it. I said at the end of our last flight, I mentioned it again, and I really think that that's what this is all about. Just trying to bridge the gap between all of us humans, just trying to figure out what each other are all about down here. And I think we kind of do that around here. So I'm going to go with that. If you think it sounds stupid, let me know and I'll keep saying different things until we all land on something we like. But I'm going with that for now. So with that, let's get right down to the business of today's flight. We are out here in the dry western deserts of the United States to check out the formations surrounding Sedona, Arizona. And I've been wanting to get the payware mod for this area for a while and almost did it a few times, but it finally went on sale. They're having a huge sale in the marketplace right now, by the way, if you haven't checked that out yet. Almost everything, it's like, well, not everything, but like half the stuff in there is on sale. So I picked up a few things, which I'll just kind of keep in my back pocket as a surprise for us later. And this one is by X-CODR Designs, by the way, the guys that made that. And they also did the airport in Sedona. So the landscape pack was like $10. The airport was $7.50, like $7.49 or something like that. So if you feel like you're going to fly in and out of there a lot, it's probably worth it for $7.49. Why the heck not? And this plane was also on sale. And I don't know if it's a new release or not, but I had never seen or heard of it before. It's called the Wittman Tailwind by Lionheart Creations. And I think I've gotten some of their other planes in the past, but I'd never seen this one. I went back and saw that some people had reviewed it, but I guess I just missed it. And this one's also on sale for like $10, and I think it's totally worth that price. It is a neat little plane and quick for a little plane like this. It can cruise at like 145 knots. Let me click back on this screen so we can get inside. I mean, look at the interior modeling of it. It looks great. At least the stuff up on the dash. I mean, once you get around to the back and all that, it's not super phenomenal, but I mean, even the chairs, I mean, it does look really good for a $10 plane. Heck yeah. All right, let's start this baby up. So let's give it a little bit of throttle, a little bit of mixture, and we're starting out at 3,000 feet, so bear that in mind if you're going to take this flight. And of course, this flight plan, just as we're taking it, will be included in the video description if you want to load it up into a little NavMap. And if you don't know how to do that, I've also got some tutorials for that somewhere down in our how-to section that'll get you up and running in little NavMap real quick. How about some fuel? That'll be great. I knew I was forgetting something. Okay, so that's good. Alternator is already on. Let's keep that on. Avionics on. And while that thing's kind of running up, we'll take a look at the Google map real quick. Okay, so if you want to find Sedona, here is Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Albuquerque. Sedona is kind of right in the middle of that triangle. So first we'll see Flagstaff, and there's Sedona right underneath it. And the place we're leaving from is Camp Verde right down here, and you can't even see the airport. It's really, really tiny, but it's right about here. So we're going to come out this way. In fact, it's right next to that casino. So we're going to come out this way, circle back around, because there's something right there I want to show you. It says Castle. It's got to be cool, right? And this is an in-sim POI, by the way. That's already going to be in there for you. And then we're going to come up this way a little bit and check out a couple more little sites over here, and then come across the interstate, and then we're going to come up into Sedona, which is right over here. There's something really cool right here I'll tell you about once we get there. And the airport is, there it is right there. So we're going to come all the way around all the formations up here, circle back around this way, and we're going to land from the north because that's the way the wind's blowing, so that actually works out just perfectly. Whole trip is about 50 miles, and this plane is quick, so it's not going to be a real long flight. Not short enough to be a lunch break flight, but pretty short. All right, let's get that going. And I don't know if these are just like tests or what, but all of our temperatures are fine, so I'm just going to remove all those and get this set for GPS because we will be taking autopilot. Make it a little bit easier for me. And that's already set to GPS, so I think we're good to go. All right, this airport, it looks okay. Some of the taxiways are a little bit blurry, but we're close to the end of the runway. There's one parking spot out here, so if you take this flight and load it up, it'll start you out here by the northern end of the runway. Parking brake off. And we're moving. And this is one of those planes where if you get the throttle too low, the engine just shuts off, so I'm going to try to remember to keep the throttle high enough to not have that happen. So this place is called the Montezuma Heights Air Park, which is a big aviation community, kind of like that one in Ocala where Travolta lives. And they opened this place in 1981, and they currently have 45 homes out here, and every one of them has a hangar. We'll check that out on a little nav map at the end. And just to make life a little bit easier for everyone, they made the runway length exactly the same as the elevation, 3,300 feet. All right, let's see if we can just try to get this thing kind of lined up on the center line here. Field of view is not great on the ground. It'll be wonderful once we get up. And this is a tight little cockpit, as you can see. I like being crammed in here. And there's two versions of this. There's the W10, which is the one this is, and then there's the W8, which I think just has like a single stack of instruments, and it might even be analog over here. And I think I read that this one is a little bit more powerful as well. Like I said, this one can cruise at 145. Okay, so altitude and one notch of flaps. Landing lights on, and our initial altitude, and I just told you what the runway elevation is 4,300, but to check out that landmark up there, I want to be pretty low because it's pretty small, so I'm going to set it initially for 4,300. Let's check our baro. And then we're going to have to get up to 7,000 to clear some of these mountains by Sedona. Okay, I think everything is good. All right, let me zoom out on a little NavMap a little bit. What we're going to do first is fly down over the town of Camp Verde, which is right down here. We're going to just circle around it so we can get going up that way. And that town's pretty small. It's got a population of about 12,000, and I'll tell you why. I think it's out there in just a minute. Couldn't get a lot of information about it, but I did get some. All right, you guys ready? Let's do it. All of this scenery out here just looks so good. All right, we're on the center line. Great. That was lucky. Airspeed's alive. And up we go. So the RPMs will increase as you pick up airspeed, so you kind of have to watch that in this thing. So we'll be dialing our throttle back a little bit, and right when we get to the end of the runway, we're going to take a hard right. Look how nimble this thing is. Really cool. Look at that. Awesome. All right, flaps up, and let's go ahead and turn our landing lights off. And let's try the GPS. Nav, and we'll come up at 500 feet a minute. So look at this. This isn't photogrammetry, but it looks pretty good. Really good. And I think the reason that this place got out here was because of an old outpost called Fort Verde, which was built during the Apache Wars in 1871. And from what I could gather, the reason for all the static with the indigenous folks was because this area was one of their big hunting grounds. So they had a big mining boom out here at some point, which brought lots and lots of people to the area. And the Apache couldn't hunt enough food to survive, so they started raiding all the cornfields out here. So they threw that fort up there, which I guess was enough to keep the peace because it never saw any action. But unfortunately, only one of the original 22 buildings is still standing, the administrative building, which they made a little museum out of, and you really can't pick it out from everything else. So unfortunately, no fort for this flight, guys. So to make up for the missing fort, I found something else for us to check out, which might be even cooler, and that is called Montezuma Castle. It is a 1,000-year-old dwelling built into the side of a cliff up here by the Sinagua people. They used to call this region home from roughly 500 AD through the 1400s. Look how beautiful this is. We got a few flat buildings. See those houses? Those look flat, although the shadows seem to be in the right spot, so it's hard to tell. But other than that, looks good for default stuff. And if you want to come down from Flagstaff, that is a photographic city, but some of the mountains north of Sedona do not look good at all, so I decided to come up from the south instead, plus we get to see this castle. And some believe that the Sinaguans are the ancestors of what would become the Hopi Indians, and they didn't call themselves the Sinagua. In fact, we don't know what they called themselves. But what we're calling them comes from a local mountain range called the Sierra Sinagua, which means without water. But this place we're going to see, however, has plenty of water. They built it right next to Beaver Creek, which we'll see in just a minute. All right, so there's our strip. This white building right here is a big casino that they built called Cliff Castle Casino and Hotel. And you better believe the Apache are getting their comeuppance for all that hassling over the corn and starvation. They opened that first little building out there in the 1990s and then built a 6-story hotel in 2018. And as of 2015, it's receiving around 1.5 million visitors a year. So the hotel opened 3 years later. That's it right in front of us. So I guess they're probably pulling a lot of people through there now. All right, the castle is going to be, or the little house, it's really more like an apartment complex. It's not a castle, but it's built right down into the side of this cliff down here, so we'll get a nice look at that. See what's going on with that. Probably had an incredible view. No one's sure why they abandoned such a sweet little crib out here. They left no records or oral traditions about any of that stuff. All right, it's going to be right in this spot right here. If you have a really big screen, you can see it. I didn't want to fly too much lower. Look at that. And I saw a bunch of pictures of that from the ground. It was really, really cool. There it is right there. See that? Neat. So let's coming up to 5,300. Just to get a little bit of space between us and the ground. And we'll give it a little bit of throttle. This next town up here on our left is called Lake Montezuma, surrounding a body of water with the same name, which is about the size of a large swimming pool. It was originally named Beaver Creek, which is this creek we're flying over right now, when the first white settlers moved out here in 1870 and started growing alfalfa, aka hay. And for a while there was a big ranch to the north of town used by mail riders for swapping out their horses along the routes, which is pretty cool. And they do have another airport out there. You can see it right here. If for some reason you want to miss the town of Verde and their absent fort. All right, can we even see Lake Montezuma? I mean, it is tiny. Maybe it's tucked down into one of these little ridges or something? You can see it on the satellite map. I think it's on the other side of this hill right here. I don't even see... Oh, there it is right there. That's it. That's Lake Montezuma. Got the whole town named after that thing. That's it. We're going to come across one more wet spot up here that is worth mentioning. It's called the Montezuma Well. And even though we can't tell in the sim, it actually sits down in a big limestone sinkhole. And the water comes from an underground spring that pumps out 1.5 million gallons of water every day. And as you can imagine, something like that out here made it another very attractive bit of real estate. And if you look at some pictures of that thing on the ground, they've got all kinds of little houses, not as big as the castle we saw back there, but there's little houses built into the side of that thing too, which is pretty cool. This is it right over here. You'll see it's kind of sunk into the ground a little bit, but in real life, it's a little bit deeper, and the edges are real jagged limestone stuff. Looks great out here, doesn't it? And I was surprised by how many bushes and shrubs are out here. I thought it was even drier than this, but it is called Camp Verde, so maybe there's something to that. In just a second, there is going to be a big white spot over here called Sacred Mountain. Once it levels out, I'll show it to you where that is. Come on down. That's it. It's just over the corner of our glare sheet. I'll lean out the window and circle it here. Had to lean away from the mic. And I couldn't figure out how it got that name, but there are ruins of a 60-room Pueblo dwelling on top of that thing, so it must have been important to somebody. And there's also the barely visible remains of a Hohokam ball court, which I'd never heard of before. And I couldn't get too many details about what that is either. But it sounds like it was a form of regional competition with the other local tribes folk, with a little bit of a religious theme having something to do with their creation narrative. So maybe that was the sacred part. In between here and there, down along the creek, which you can't see, is a place called Crane Petroglyph Site, which is an open cliff face with hundreds of Sinagwan rock carvings. Some of them appear to be cranes, which is probably how it got that name. And for all you fans of Ancient Aliens, which I'll assume is everyone, I'm pretty sure that site was featured in one of their episodes. It looked very familiar to me. Though I took a close look at all the pictures and didn't see anything that looked like an alien. Mostly animal depictions from what I could tell. Alright, so we're about to head west across Interstate 17, which runs from Phoenix to Flagstaff, so I guess it's more of an intrastate. And that roughly follows an old stagecoach route that was moving people through the area starting back in the 1870s, which is kind of cool. And this big thing that's going to be sticking up right in front of us, I'm going to get him a little bit higher actually. I'm going to make sure we can clear that. So let's get to 6,000 feet. There we go. It's called House Mountain. And when I zoomed way out on the map, I was surprised to discover it looked an awful lot like a volcano, and for good reason, because it is one. It's an old shield volcano that belched its last around 15 million years ago and has been eroding away ever since at about 1 foot of elevation every 600 years. So if you get out here real quick, there might still be enough left of it to take a peek at it. But man, I don't know how I missed this thing initially. When you back way out, you can still see where the lava flows were and everything. So we're going to fly over the crater and then check out that thing on the satellite map when we're done. So Sedona is over there. You can see where everything's modded up because it's really, really red. But we're going to have a few minutes till we get out there, so I'll give you a few announcements instead of at the end because I'll be very busy as we're coming into the airport. Voting is officially open for our quarterly flight plan competition. If you want to vote on the 3 flights out of several that I selected for us to vote on, you can go to the community page of our YouTube channel, and that's where you'll see them. I also link the videos if you want to watch them again or haven't seen them yet. And we'll leave that open for a couple weeks. And the winner selected by the sim community will get a gift card to the sim vendor of their choice. So get in there and cast your votes. And if you would like to submit your own flight plan, you can join us up on our Discord server. The link for that will also be in the video description. And guys, I just can't, I'm going to keep saying it, you got to get in there. You know, you're just sitting around on the internet, you've watched a bunch of shorts, or whatever that Instagram and TikTok stuff is that my wife and kids do all the time, and then you're just like, what else am I going to do on the internet? It's too early to go to bed. Hop on our Discord server. Always cool conversations about all things aviation going on in there, and you can get in on the flight plan competition. So all I need to know is the departure code, arrival code, and a few things to check out in between. I'll build the flight plan unless you feel like building the flight plan, which you're more than welcome to do. I'll probably have to adjust it a little bit to make it work for the channel. But if it's good enough to check all the boxes, we'll load it up, and you can be in the competition. All right, so right over here is the top of the crater, and it's amazing to me. This thing is 15 million years old, and there's still enough of it to see the rim of the crater in here. Just shocking. And wait till you see it on the satellite map. Looks really wild. You would think it was a couple hundred years old with all the what appear to be flows, but I don't know what it is. Maybe just darker earth, dried up flows. But very cool. And I've also been thinking about something else that I mentioned on Discord, but I'll go ahead and ask all you guys, since it's amazing. We have like 1,400 members on this channel, subscribers, and 51 people on our Discord server. So I'll go ahead and mention this to all you guys in case some of you guys don't want to get on the Discord server, which is fine if you don't feel like getting in there. But over the year and a half or so that I've been doing this, a lot of people have watched the very few tutorials that I have uploaded and said they'd like to see some more just basic tutorials. You know, I don't want to do stuff about how to start up individual planes and all that, because there's plenty of that stuff out there. But all the big sim guys haven't done any basic flight tutorials in a really, really, really long time. It seems like that's where everybody starts, and then they kind of find their niche and get into it. So if you want to see anything from the big guys' channels, you got to go way, way, way back in their history to see any of that. And with 2024 coming out here pretty soon, there might be some more folks looking for that kind of thing. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, I want to get everybody into simming. I think that would just be awesome if you want to take a crack at it. And want to get up and running real quick just so you can get in the air and have some fun in some airplanes. I don't mind posting a few tutorial videos that'll just show you how to take off, land, basic navigation, things like that. So let me know if you'd find that interesting. I'll keep doing our regular videos. I might record all those and just load them up at once, keep them in our how-to section. All right, as we enter Sedona here, we're going to cross over an area down there to our right called the Villages of Oak Creek. And like most of the rest of this area, it's mostly retirees and vacation properties. And it looks pretty cool, but we're not going to see much of it because we got this stuff over here. All right, so before we start checking out all the formations, I'll tell you a little bit about the geographical history behind them. Around 300 million years ago, everything out here was at the bottom of a giant inland sea that stretched from the Gulf of Mexico up to Canada, basically cut the continent in half. And millions of years is a long time for sea creatures to die and pile up at the bottom, eventually forming bedrock with a high iron content. But as the Pacific plate plowed underneath the North American plate, it lifted up the center of what is now the United States, drying up that interior seaway roughly 70 million years ago into the age of the dinosaurs, and exposing the formerly muddy floor to the elements and oxygen, which in turn carved out everything we're about to see, all that erosion and wind and rain. Look at that. Incredible. That thing right there is called Bell Rock, by the way. I'm going to point out a few of these that I did put bookmarks on. And that one right there is called Courthouse Butte. And everything looks so red because of all that iron content. All right, we got to get up higher, so let's go ahead and get to 7,000 feet. And climb away. Let's try not to hit anything. That would be bad. And we're just going to barely skirt the top of the trees out here. It's going to look pretty cool. Okay, the next ones we're going to see are the West Twin and the East Twin Butte, which are these guys over on the other side of this thing here. And then Submarine Rock, which we may have to hop out of the plane to take a look at because it's going to kind of be underneath us. So these are the twins over here. And I don't know how true to life these actually look in the sim. I imagine they probably made a lot of effort to get them to look pretty true to life. But they probably got named these because they look like whatever the names are. So let's hop out real quick and look at Submarine Rock. This is going to be it right over here. I guess it kind of looks like a submarine coming up out of the water. Not really, but why not? I don't know if you guys have ever flown out here without the add-on, but this is a massive improvement. But unfortunately, right outside of this region, especially to the north, doesn't look great at all. So again, coming from the south if you don't want to be disappointed. Down here on this side is Snoopy and Camelhead Rock. Again, don't know why they call them that, but they probably look something like both of those characters. Let's hop out again because that side of our windshield's kind of sticking up in the air. And now the plane's in front of it. So maybe that thing sticking up is Snoopy, and I think Camelhead's over here. See that thing sticking up right there? That is incredible. Man, I just really, really appreciate the guys that take the time to make all this stuff. Just unbelievable. All right, we're just going to skirt the tops of these trees. It's going to be awesome. There's something tiny up here called the merry-go-round, and I really couldn't see it in the sim. On the satellite map, you'll see it kind of just looks like a little round formation, so I deleted that from our bookmark file, which will also be included in the video description, by the way. If you don't want to take the time to bookmark all these yourself, you can load that right up in a little NavMap, and you'll see what I'm talking about if you don't know what the bookmarks are. Once we're done, we'll check all that stuff out. So we're going to have the Pointed Dome, the Teapot, and the Acropolis over here on these formations. And I really don't know which one's which, but they're all part of that thing over there to the left, which we'll get a nice look at both sides of that. So Flagstaff, if you're coming down from that way, was about a 15-minute flight down here. Not too bad. And Flagstaff, there's not much. It looks great because it's photogrammetry, but not much going on in that city. But anytime I'm near a photogrammetry city, I always feel like I got to check it out, which I did. Look at that. Look at this one over here, sticking up like that. I think that one's called the Morning Glory Spire. And we got some photographic trees there. I wouldn't mind watching a tutorial of how these guys do this, really how to do anything when you're modding it. Maybe I'll see if Freaky D will let me look over his shoulder sometime, do a little live stream, let me watch him do it. I'm not really interested in doing it, but I'm very curious about what goes into that. I feel like I'd be a lot less critical of things that don't look flawless if I knew just how painstakingly difficult it probably is. This looks a lot like Bryce Canyon if you saw that flight. It was about the same kind of terrain as this. Alright, we're going to see Bryn's Ridge over here to... I don't think that's it. I think Bryn's Ridge comes over this way, so it'll be on the left side of the plane because we're going to take a little right turn up here in a second. Yeah, I mean, you can just see right over here. Once you get out of the modded area, you get stretching, drooping, running, but not down here. That is impossibly detailed. That is just amazing. I wonder how long it takes someone to do that. Alright, if one of you guys knows how to do that, and you want to give me a little private session... Again, I don't want to learn how to do it, I just want to see what you're doing. Just like 10-15 minutes of doing it. Because that would be cool. There's something up here called Devil's Bridge that we're going to swing around the outside, and it's supposed to be a natural arch, and it doesn't look like it's very big on the satellite map, so I'm going to start coming back down again because I think we're safe at this point. Let's try coming back down to 6,000 feet and see what happens. Because I think we're going to need to be kind of close to it to see it. Let's see. I'll pull that throttle back a little bit. Now we're alright. We got some room with that. And if you fly out here at sunset, just looks incredible. When I first got into simming, or at least in 2020, I did a couple tutorial add-on packs, I guess you'd call them. And I think Sedona was one of the places they had us flying in and out of. You guys probably know what I'm talking about if you did any of those. It might have been for the gliders, flying around the thermals and things like that. But I feel like when I saw this airport, it looked awfully familiar to me. So maybe that's what it was from. Alright, so where is the bridge? Where are you, bridge? There it is right there. See it? That's it. Oh, cool. I could not find that thing before. That's it right there. Boy, and it's tiny too. Look at that little thing. Incredible. So we're going to see Capitol Butte and Chimney Rock. Not sure exactly which one Capitol Butte is, but Chimney Rock is this big thing sticking up over here, I believe. Maybe this is Capitol Butte here. And it is a butte. I think it is. And then there's Chimney Rock. And then there's the airport. So we're going to come up around this way. And then coming on over there. And this thing's called Sugarloaf Mountain. And in little NavMap, if you have the map box, it will also have tags on all of these, plus a lot more. It looks like they hit everything that was labeled in the maps. There's Chimney Rock. Boy, I bet you could do a lot of hiking out here. So now I'm going to come down to, let's see, what is our runway elevation? 4,700, so let's come down to 5,700. That'll give us 1,000 feet. All right. Just keep on coming down. Slow down some more. One more reason to get on the Discord server. Like I said, I'm just going to keep banging that gong. One of our members, which I mentioned in the last flight, is going to set up monthly bush plane group flights, where he's going to lay out the plan for us, supply all of the add-ons that may be available in the area, tell us some interesting things we're going to look at along the way, and then we'll hop on the Discord server and turn on the group chat audio feature and do some flying around together. I'm really looking forward to that. That sounds really, really cool because I love flying bush planes and I love hanging out and chit-chatting with you guys, so I'm looking forward to that a lot. So if you want to get involved in that, again, click on that Discord link. And if any of you guys just don't know what Discord is or how it works, you're not alone, I didn't either. But it is so simple and so easy to use. It's kind of like the old chat rooms if you're old school. Works kind of like that. But if you want me to do a little tutorial about how to navigate and stuff in there, which you would figure out in like 3 minutes if you just got in there, I don't mind doing that either. Just let me know. I want to try to get some more folks in there because it's just such a fun place to hang out. That is a cool area, isn't it? Really, really cool area. And we didn't really have time to get into the history of Sedona, but again, I think it's mostly retirees, people with second homes out here. Alright, we're getting down to flap speed, so I'm going to turn off the autopilot once we come on around here, get those flaps out, we'll come on down. And I think I'm going to do something a little different. I've been having some hopping issues with this, so what I'm going to try this time is right when the wheels touch down, I'm going to bring the flaps up and see if that doesn't help a little bit. I got some advice from one of our members about that. On one of our bush plane trips, I was in the double ender just bouncing that thing all over the place, and he said, right when you're like an inch off the ground, just lift your flaps up, and that may help that, so we're going to test that out. Alright, let's give it one notch of flaps. And there's the runway, so let's just go ahead and kick the autopilot off. And come on in here. Well, that looks like photogrammetry, doesn't it? I mean, it is detailed. Really detailed. Super good, but because it's not photogrammetry, no performance issues. I've got everything just cranked for this flight. Looks fantastic. What a cool airport, too, huh? Yeah, so if you want this add-on, $7.49 right now. Check it out. Same guy that made this whole area. Or guys, or girls. Alright, come down a little more. And I've also noticed with this that no matter how low you are, the pappies will say you're high, so don't rely on the pappies. They're never going to turn red. You could hit the trees and they wouldn't turn red. I almost did before. And I got to remember to keep a little bit of throttle or else the engine's going to shut off on me. So we'll just go down to that far taxiway, pulling over. There's a bunch of helipads on the other end. We'll just kind of pull in there and park this thing and check out little NavMap. Let's go ahead and turn our fuel pump. Maybe that'll help keep the engine running. Alright, second notch of flaps, and once you get those flaps all the way out, that airspeed is going to plummet. Heck, I might get the add-on for this. I'll probably fly out here again. It would probably be pretty cool, because it looks just okay right now. Alright, let's experiment with our flap raising. Not sure exactly where the stall speed is for this thing when it's full dirty. Alright, flaps up. Oh, that got us down, didn't it? Jeez. Okay, well, that was a fun experiment. I think next time I'll just do it the right way. Yeah, we're on the ground. We're on the ground, stall warning. I hear you. But we're not going to take off again without those flaps up. Boy, I've got full brakes on right now. Not real grabby. Just looking out of our Lindbergh reference over there to try to see where we are with the runway. Boy, I hope I can hit this next taxiway. I hope I don't run out of runway. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that was a little hot, but you could see we were definitely down in the stall zone area, so... Alright, if you're going to try that, guys, I would just leave your flaps down, because it was a heck of a lot smoother last time, but all in the name of learning, all in the name of progress. Alright, let's just pull on over here and see where it takes us. I'll show you where all those helipads are. They're going to be on the left, which we'll at least be able to see those. This left side of the plane. We'll park right by them. And let's turn the fuel pump off so that'll stop making that noise. I don't even know if I'm on the taxiway. Yeah, field of view is not great on the ground. Okay, there's the lights. Alright, there's all the helipads right over here on our left. I think. Yeah, I think so. This would be a cool area for a helicopter flight, too, for sure. Is that over there? I don't know. We're going to park on that white thing, whatever it is. Looks like a perfect spot. I hope we can get up on that lip there. Too bad Chet's not with us. He probably knows exactly where to go. I bet he flies out here all the time. That was pretty smooth. There's the helipad. See all those white things over there? Alright, back pressure on the stick. Slam on the brakes. Okay, let's shut her off. And what we can do is just cut the throttle. That should probably do it. But let's try just killing the next. That'll do it. Parking brake on. Okay, so I don't know what's up with this, with all these warning lights. They keep coming up like that. Not sure what's going on with that, but that's okay. We didn't have any problems except for landing. Alright, so let's see what all we got going on here. Here's where we left from, down by... Let me see if I can find where that one little place is where the fort used to be. It's right here. And I think this thing right here, which is all pixelated right now, is where the museum is right now. So I think there's 4 total buildings left from the 22 that were out here, but there's nothing that looks like any kind of a fort out here, except this big area here. I don't know what they do with that, but there's no cannons or palisades or anything like that. All right, so then we came up here and looked at... There's a casino, by the way, which you can barely see. 1.5 million people. I bet they're over 2 million now. They built that hotel out there. That's a lot, and I bet they get a lot of tourists in here. So check out this neighborhood. How sweet would that be? Every one of these houses has a hangar. That would be amazing. Well, if I ever make it big in life, That's what I'm going to do. Maybe not this place, but something like that. So here's where that, you really can't see it from here, but here's where that little ridge is. It's easy to see in the sim because you can tell where they did some terraforming out there. So you definitely see it. Just look for the reddish cliffs out there, and then you'll see the little house in there. So then we come up here to the town of Lake Montezuma, and there's the giant lake, Lake Montezuma. And there's the airport. How long is that runway? 2,500 feet. So the one we left from was a little bit longer, but it is paved if you feel like you want to leave from there instead. And then here's where the well is, and you can see from here, it's a lot more jagged around the edges, and all up in here, I believe, is where they had the little dwellings, which, again, didn't look as impressive as the castle, but they got some in there. And then over here is where the Sacred Mountain is. And they said all that's left of the Hohokam Court is just a depression in the ground, which is kind of what it looked like when they were using it anyway. I couldn't see where the adobe stuff is, or the Pueblo house is, but it must have been big if it had 60 rooms. But I think it's mostly just cobble and little stones and stuff left. And here's where the petroglyphs are. Take a look at that. If you watch Ancient Aliens, you'll know what I'm talking about. Looks very familiar, but they've visited all kinds of places like that, so that might not have been the one. Now look at this. Look at that. Look at that volcano. And you can kind of tell where the flows were. See how it's darker like that? 15 million years since that thing blew its top. But that was cool. What a nice little treat. All right, so then we came out here and started checking out all of our peaks. I'm not going to go through all these because there's not much to talk about with them, but all the bookmarks are in here. And you can see there are some other spots I didn't even mention, like Gibraltar Rock here. There's all kinds of stuff to see, and I would be willing to bet they modeled every one of those. There's Submarine Rock, which looks nothing like a submarine, but I guess call it Submarine Rock, call it whatever you want. And there's Snoopy Rock, which, again, I think was that thing that was just sticking up all by itself over there, but we weren't close enough to see if it looked like Snoopy. There's Camel Head, which may or may not look like a camel. And here's the teapot, pointed dome, and here's the merry-go-round, which maybe it's that thing right there. See that little thing? But I could not pick that out in the sim. You could tell it's a little bit lighter colored here, but I couldn't see that. And if we get any closer, it doesn't look much better. So I would say you can probably skip that one because it didn't look like much. The Acropolis was over here. And then we came down here. So here's Britain's Ridge, Morning Glory Spire. You could definitely see that. That was sticking way up in the air. And the mitten, I forgot to mention that one, but I bet that does kind of look like a mitten. And then here's the one you don't want to miss. Devil's Bridge. Boy, in the sim, it seemed like that was like right next to this thing right here. It looked really, really close to it, but maybe my perspective was just off a little bit with that. We almost missed it, but we did catch it, which is great. There's Capitol Butte, and then Chimney Rock, and then Sugarloaf Mountain, which was probably the least impressive of all of them, but it did have a tag on it. And then we came on in. That was it. Awesome flight. I have no idea where we're going next, but as usual, it's going to be awesome. Had a blast, as I always do. Learned all kinds of amazing things, so we got to see where a fort was. We got to see some old Indian ruins. We got to see a volcano and an awesome formation mod. All in all, awesome flight. Can't wait to see y'all again in the skies. Later.